Hi members and welcome to another Macro Monday. My name's Mitchell Snedden and I'm joined by Callum Pickering. Callum, we won't dwell on last week's election because you'll be going into that with Tony Kaye later on. But what I do want to talk about is we've got a speech this Friday from Janet Yellen. What are you expecting to see from her?
Well, we have 1 month until the next Federal Reserve meeting, so it's widely expected that Janet Yellen's going to set the stage for the next rate hike for the Federal Reserve. So she's going to go into the economic outlook, she's going to discuss some of the risks, where she sees monetary policy at the moment and where it could potentially be in the future. I don't anticipate that she'll touch much upon the presidential election. She might make some brief comments, but it certainly won't be a focus of what she has to say.
Okay, now looking here at home, we've got a whole swag of data coming out this week. On Wednesday we've got wages, Thursday we've got employment figures, Philip Lowe's speech on Tuesday. What are you, and commercial lending data as well. What are you particularly paying a close attention to?
Well, in terms of the data, I certainly think that the labour market data is going to be the most important. So beginning with the wage price index on Wednesday, expectations are for growth of around 0.5%, which is consistent with what we've seen over the past 12 months or so. Annual wage growth is currently tracking at around its slowest pace since 1998, which was when the data first began. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this develops, because it's an important input into what happens with inflation. So if you have weak wage growth, naturally you see very weak domestic inflationary pressures. The labour force survey is always an interesting one. It's perhaps our most important monthly indicator. Current market expectations are that employment will increase by around 20,000 this month, which will help to offset some of the weakness that we've seen over the past couple of months. The market currently expects that the unemployment rate will remain at 5.6%. But personally, I'm more interested in this full-time, part-time split that we've seen over the past few years.
What has it been?
Well, over the past 12 months, full-time employment's actually declined, whereas part-time employment's been quite strong. Now, historically, this has been a sign of economic weakness. Usually when you have downturn or a recession, you see full-time employment fall and people shift over to part-time employment. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting that's going to be the case this time, but it's certainly an area that I'm keeping a firm eye on.
And that just leaves us with Philip Lowe's speech on Tuesday. What are you looking for here, and what are your expectations?
Well, it's going to be an interesting one because it's going to be the first take that we have in Australia after the presidential election. So it's going to be the first opportunity where he can sort of expand upon some of these issues that have come up over the past week, certainly since the last board meeting of the Reserve Bank earlier this month. Now, the speech itself is about economic buffers, which suggests that he's going to touch upon monetary policy. He's also going to touch upon fiscal policy. And I suspect he's probably also going to touch upon productivity, which is one of his favoured issues. So in terms of the market reaction, they're going to be looking at what he has to say about monetary policy, obviously, whether he has anything to say about housing, the Australian dollar. But it's just going to be interesting to see whether his views have changed at all since the events of last week.
Excellent. Well, Callum, thanks for joining us, and members, thank you. And do make sure you check out Callum's video with Tony Kaye coming out this Wednesday.